Bill Jordan, and today, all of us here, and everybody out there, are going to enjoy some stories and some tales, and our special guest with me is Jane Ferry.
Hi.
Isn't Ferry a neat last name for a storyteller? I bet she has some relations in the fairy business, don't you? I can't hear you. Yeah, another one. There we go. Stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Okay, today we're going to have a story about a hound and a bear. The hound is kind of tricky. He always wants to play tricks on the bear. But in the end, the bear, he has a nice little present of his own, okay? Okay, it's called Hound and Bear by Dick Gackenbach. Okay. This little part is called The Long Night. Bear and Hound were best friends. Bear was very sensible. Hound was very silly. What a good joke it would be on Bear, Hound thought, if I painted his bedroom window black. That night, after Bear went to sleep, Hound put black paint on all the panes in Bear's window. Next morning, the sun was shining bright. But when Bear woke up, he looked out of his window. Everything was very dark. It's still nighttime, yawned Bear. He went back to bed and fell asleep. When he woke up again, it was 12 o'clock noon. He peeked out of his window for some sign of the morning. How black the night is, he said. Bear lit his candle and looked at his old pocket watch. Both hands were at 12. Why, it's only midnight, said Bear. He blew out his candle and went back to bed again. Bear slept the whole day through and all night long. Yeah. When Bear woke up the next morning, he was very hungry. He said, I could eat a bear, but it's not time yet for breakfast. His room was very dark. So Bear sat up in bed thinking about a good breakfast of bread and honey. He thought, as he waited for the sun to rise. Hound came to Bear's house and pounded at the door. Wake up, Bear, he shouted, wake up. I am awake, said Bear from his bed. I am waiting for the sun to shine. The sun is shining, you ninny bear. Hound laughed and laughed. Bear went to see why Hound was laughing. He opened his eyes and He opened the door and his eyes blinked in a bright sun. He looked at the ladder and the black paint and at his window. It's one of your tricks, Hound, he said. Bear went back into his house. Hound came too, laughing until his sides hurt. Bear sat down and began to eat a big cake. How long was I asleep, he asked. All through yesterday, giggled Hound. Then, said Bear, I have missed your birthday, Hound. Hound stopped laughing. I was going to have a surprise party for you, said Bear. Oh my, said Hound sadly. And that was your cake I just ate, said Bear, swallowing the last piece. Oh dear, said Hound. Hound loved birthday cakes and parties. That was a great cake, said Bear. Now I think I'll take a nap. Okay, the next little part of the story is called The Package. One fall day, Hound asked Bear, what are you going to do today? I am going to wait for the postman to bring a very important package, Bear replied. And what are you going to do, Hound? Bear asked. Clean my house and wash my socks, answered Hound. Those are good things to do, said Bear. Yes, said Hound, but I would rather play a game of pretend. Oh, said Bear. Pretend what? I would go to your house and pretend that I am you, said Hound. And what would I do? Asked Bear. You could go to my house and pretend that you are me, Hound explained. So Bear went to Hound's house and pretended he was Hound. Bear cleaned the dirty house and washed all the dirty socks. Hound went to Bear's house and pretended he was Bear. He ate all of Bear's cookies and jelly beans, and then he drank all of Bear's root beer. When the postman came with the package, Hound thought it would be a good joke on Bear if he sent the package back. Bear told me to send the package back, Hound told the postman. The postman took a big crayon and marked on the package, "Return to sender." So Bear's package went on its way back to the store. Soon Bear came home. "Did you do everything I was going to do?" asked Hound. "Yes," said Bear. "I cleaned your house." "Did you wash my socks?" asked Hound. "Yes," said Bear. "And what did you do, Hound?" he asked. "I ate your cookies," said Hound. "Well," said Bear, "that's what I would have done." "And I drank all your root beer," said Hound. "Oh, I would have done that too," said Bear. "And I sent your package back." Hound burst out laughing. "I would not have done that," Bear said. "It was a sweater I bought for you," said Bear. "Oh," said Hound. "Yes," said Bear. "You will wish you had it when it gets cold." Oh, dear," said Hound sadly. "Furthermore," said Bear, "that's the last game I will play with you." Okay, the last part is called the best present. Hound knocked on Bear's door. "Open up, Bear," he shouted. "I have something for you." "Is it one of your tricks again?" Bear asked from behind the door. "No trick, I promise," said Hound. When Bear opened the door, Hound gave him a big box all tied in ribbon. "Open it, it's for you," said Hound. Bear opened it very slowly, for he was sure something would pop out and hit him in the nose. Inside the package was a smaller one, all tied in ribbon too. "You have tricked me too many times," said Bear. "Trust me," said Hound. So Bear opened this package with even greater care. He was sure it would explode, but inside was even a smaller box, all tied in ribbon. "If this is another trick, you will lose my friendship forever," said Bear. "Your friendship is very dear to me," said Hound. So Bear opened the last package. Inside was a beautiful hat with a real goose feather in the band. "Thank you," said Bear. He was very pleased. "I was sure it was another trick," Bear said. "I promise never to play another trick on you," said Hound. "That," sighed Bear, "is the best present of all." Then they both went to town so everybody could see Bear's new hat. The end.
Yay! Oh, a good story, wasn't it? Thank you, Jane. Do you know Hound and Bear yourself? Have you ever met him?
Well, I knew that silly Hound before. I think I
Yeah.
saw him this summer sometimes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Does he bark and stuff?
No, he laughs. He likes
laughs
to play
a lot?
tricks. Yeah, he's really nice, but he's kind of silly.
Have you guys ever heard a dog laugh? You have? What's he sound like? Ruff, ruff, ruff. I've heard dogs bark, but I can't remember. What does a dog sound like? Can you tell me? Ruff, ruff. I still can't hear you. Those are little dogs. But there's enough people here to be a big dog. Oh, that's better. Let's help him, Jane. Ruff, 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 ruff. Oh. Let's get the people at home barking, too. Everybody look at the camera and bark like a dog, and then they'll bark like a dog, and I bet everybody in town will hear it. Okay, look at the camera and bark. Oh, we better stop. The dog catcher might be out and take us all to the pound. Jane, thank you much.
Thank you.
Okay, kids. Now, how would you like to hear some more stories? You would. Well, we've been sitting a while. Let's stand up a minute. Okay? And let's stretch. Now, let's stretch real tall. Up on your tiptoes. Oh, stretch those muscles. Reach for the stars. Can you touch the stardust up there? You know, sometimes stardust sprinkles down to your fingertips and puts magic in them. Do we have any stardust on our fingertips? Oh, that's neat. Very good. Now, say that. There we go. All sit down now. Now, let's scrunch up closer here. Scrunch in closer over there. And you guys can get real close, too. Now, I want you all to pretend that we're sitting outside. And it's nighttime. And the evening is very need a jacket. That's a good idea. But there are stars overhead, and way off in the east, the moon is just coming up. A big, full orange moon. Oh, and it's coming right up into the sky. And what happens when you got a moon like that? That's right, and ghosts and goblins. Well, a long time ago, long before even I was born, there was an old house. And this house was haunted. It was a big two-story house with no windows in it. All the glass was broken out. Old raggedy curtains fluttered in and out through the breezes. And when you started walking up the steps to the front porch, the steps would creak. Not like the stairs in your house creak, kind of. This was... Let's pretend we're walking up steps to a haunted house, okay? You gotta squeak, remember. And you know why those steps squeak? Because the ghost that haunts the house is a special type of squeak oil. He oils his steps so they squeak. That way, yes, he does. That way he knows when somebody like you or me is going to walk up the steps. Well, he walked up the steps, and here's this front door. An old front door with an old rusty handle that rattles in the wind. And as you open the door, it squeaks on its hinges. And you know why? That ghost oiled those hinges. Squeaky, dark house, and there's cobwebs hanging down and brush your face. And there's weird sounds as the wind whips through, kind of go, ooh. And the spiders are up in the corner, and there's little mouse holes in the wall. And floating down the stairs is a big, white spook. Now, we don't really have to worry because this big white spook is a friendly ghost. You can always tell a friendly ghost because he always has white on. Ghosts in white are always friendly. Now, if you get a bad ghost, he can be you're right, he can be green. Sometimes they're even black. But I've never seen a black ghost. They're pretty bad, and I really don't go looking for them. You got a Ghostbusters shirt. Well, that's another story. Well, anyway, this particular house had a nice, friendly ghost. Except for the spiders and the mice, he didn't scare anybody. Of course, he'd sneak up to the spiders because the spiders would spin their webs across the places he'd be walking. And he'd go up and say, boo, to the spiders. And the mice, they would come up and try and chew on his chains and put his chains, he has chains from the attic that he rattles as he walks across the floor. They'd try to chew on his chains, so he didn't like the mice or the spiders. But they managed to get along for just years and years and years. Finally, a bad thing happened. One day, during a rainstorm, a big crack of thunder went boom, and lightning flashed, and a green ghost came into the house. And this was a nasty green ghost. He was the type of guy that would go around and take the air out of your bicycle tires and tie your shoelaces together with spools so when you stood up you'd fall over. This was a mean ghost. Well, this mean ghost came in and he walked right up to the nice ghost and he said, "You get out of here. This is my house now." And the good ghost, he was scared. He ran away into a closet and hid. Well, the spiders were sitting up in their nest, looking out through a crack in the wall, wondering what was going to happen, because they knew this was a bad ghost. The little mice were peeking around the corner of their homes, watching the bad ghost, because a bad ghost could turn mice into pieces of dust. and spiders into sticks. And if you've ever been a piece of dust or a stick, you'll know it's not a very interesting life at all. Yeah, but you weren't. Well, anyway, this bad ghost goes roaming around, scaring spiders and mice, and trying to turn some of them into sticks and pieces of dust. Well, finally, the head spider goes, "We've got to stop this! We can't spin our webs! We can't do anything!" And the chief mouse came up to him and said, "Squeak, squeak, 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 squeak." Well, mice can't talk, they just can squeak. Now, the spider was kind of hard of hearing, so the mouse needed some help to talk real loud. So can we help the mouse? Okay, now he's going to tell the spider, "Let's get rid of this bad ghost." Okay? With a squeak that way. Squeak, 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 squeak. Oh, that just won't do. You know, I think we need some more help. Can you guys out there and gals help us squeak so that head spider will hear the head mouse? Okay, all together now. Squeak, 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 squeak. Oh, that's good. You guys are great. And so are you. The head spider heard. And you too. Everybody, I think you're all so good we all should hug each other, okay? Let's give everybody a big hug. A hug. Oh, no, I'm not going to be the only hugger. There's two huggers. Just put your arm around the person next to you and squeak, okay? There we go. There we go. There's two. You two got a hug. Can you guys hug? Well, just think if that's okay. Well, anyway, the spider and the mouse got together and went to the good ghost who was hiding in the closet, and the head spider said, "Mr. Good Ghost, if you give us some of your special magic, we'll tie this bad ghost up, and then you can get rid of him." And the good ghost thought and said, "Well, okay, and then I won't scare you anymore." "All right, that's fine." And the head mouse said, "Squeak, squeak, 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 squeak." Well, that's because he couldn't talk. Well, anyway, the bad ghost was lying up in the attic, sleeping off in a corner, and that old green color of his turned the whole attic a shade of green. So all the spiders got together, and they started spinning webs around him. And as they spun them, the good ghost would go zap. The webs would be turned into magical ghost ropes. And you all know, of course, that ghost ropes can tie up a ghost. And the mice, as soon as there was enough rope, would tie them into knots and put sticks and dust and bits of rock in it to hold the ghost onto the floor. And as they did that, the good ghost would go zap. And the sticks and dust and bits of rock would turn into magical bits of ghost gold that shone in the dark and, of course, have magical properties. So, when that bad ghost woke up, he was all tied up and anchored to the floor, and he goes, "What's going on? I can't move." And the good ghost said, "Now I'm going to give you a chance to leave. This isn't your place, and the mice and the spiders don't like being scared and being turned into sticks and bits of dust. That isn't nice at all. Now you just go back where you came from and leave our house alone." "I'll never do that." Well, the mice and spiders started tying him up and tying him up until he was tied from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. If he had any feet, because ghosts really don't have feet. Well, anyway, that we can see. Anyway, when all that was left was his mouth, he said, "Oh, all right, I'll leave." And zap, he disappeared. And he never came back to the house. And the spiders and the mice and the good ghost lived happily ever after. Although every once in a while the good ghost did scare the spiders and the mice. But that was usually just on Halloween night. And remember, if you're traveling through town, if you see a big, old, dark house with steps up to the door, that might be the haunted house. And inside there might be the good ghost. Well, I wouldn't go into the house anyway because I don't like being scared. Yeah, sometimes that happens. You guys take that story and tell it to your friends, and you tell it better. Now, would you like to hear another one? Yeah. Okay. This one isn't going to be a scary one. This one's going to be about leprechauns. Do you know what leprechauns are? Well, they do wear green. I'll tell you what a leprechaun is. Now, he is a little guy from Ireland. I guess you might call him a fairy, but that's not really true. Leprechauns are kind of a breed unto themselves, okay? But they stand about this tall, and they have black, shiny shoes with real silver buckles on them. And they wear a green coat with their buttons standing out that are just so pure of silver, you have to shade your eyes when you see them. And on top of their heads, little hats with a black belt around the top of them. The buckle on the belt is silver. And they like smoking big, long pipes, and they're very, very magical. And they talk something like this, with a wee bit of the Irish brogue in them. Well, one day, a long time ago, way before you and I were born, across the land and the seas in a place called Ireland, there was a farmer. And he was kind of like the farmers in Iowa. And he had a crop of mushrooms. Oh, he loved mushrooms. And every Saturday, he'd load them in the back of his wagon, hitch up his horse, and drive into town and sell his mushrooms. And one day, he was going to do that. But this was a special day, because the money from his mushrooms was buy his daughter her wedding gown. She was going to get married, and she wanted a beautiful wedding gown. So he had his best mushrooms in the back of his wagon. And he hopped up on top of the seat, picked up the reins, and went, "Come on, horse." And into town they went. Well, along the way, they passed a big, tall tree. Now, this was kind of a strange tree, because there were no other trees around it. It's huge. Why, that tree was bigger around than I could reach. And it was so tall that the tips of its leaves on top brushed the little bellies of the clouds and tickled them as they went by, so they laughed. Anyway, he was driving by this tree, and underneath it, there was a wee little man about this long, lying, and he couldn't talk. He seemed to be asleep. Well, the farmer stopped his wagon and hopped off and went up to the little man, and he said, "On be God, it's just, what's wrong with you, my little man? Can you wake up and talk to me?" Remember, this was in Ireland. Well, the little man couldn't say a word. So the farmer, being a good sport, lifted him up and set him in the wagon and drove on into town. Well, what the farmer didn't know is while he was driving into town, the little man woke up and he saw all these mushrooms. And oh, let me tell you, mushrooms and leprechauns go together. Leprechauns love mushrooms. They love them fried, they love them buttered, they love them on pizza. You name it, they like it. Now, pizza hadn't been invented yet, but leprechauns are magical, and they can do anything they want to do, almost. Yeah, well, watch it. Someday you might see a leprechaun hiding out around there, but you got to be quick. Well, anyway, this leprechaun saw these baskets of mushrooms and started eating them. So, by the time they got into town, just before they got into town, there wasn't a mushroom left. That old leprechaun had eaten them all. And the farmer looked around and stopped the horse and said, "What are you doing? You ate all my mushrooms. My poor little lass at home won't have a wedding gown now. I don't have the money for it." And the leprechaun, being a good leprechaun and a fair one, as most of them are, said, "I'd be God, it's nothing to worry about. You have a fine crop of mushrooms, and they were delicious. And I was in such a dead faint from hunger that I barely could walk and couldn't talk at all, but you saved me. And for that, I'll give you a wee bit of magic." And he reached into his coat pocket, deep down in his coat pocket, pulled out a little red bottle. Now, this wasn't the type of bottle you find in, like, a carton of pop. This was a bottle about this tall, and it was the purest red china, and it was shaped kind of like this, a narrow top, and a stopper in it, you know. And it was so small and tiny, and so beautiful. It was just a joy to hold it and look at it. And the leprechaun went, "I'll tell you what you can do. You take this home to your daughter, and you'll find out about the magic, and you needn't to worry about her wedding gown." And poof, the leprechaun disappeared. Well, the farmer went back to his daughter, and handed her this little bottle and told her all about the leprechaun. And she said, "Oh, the goddess, what am I going to do with the bottle? There's no wedding gown." And she opened it up and looked inside, and there was just a few drops. And they all dropped out onto the ground. And immediately, a cloud of smoke came up, and it enveloped the farmer and his daughter, and everybody here. Why, I couldn't even see you. That smoke was so thick. And you know what color it was? It was a red smoke. And then a magical wind came along and blew away the smoke. And there was a chest made of oak and bound with real brass buckles that just kind of shone in the sunlight. And the farmer and his daughter opened it up, and there was the purest white silk and satin wedding gown with all kinds of lace on it. And it was woven right from leprechauns and was magical. But as they opened the brass case, they dropped the bottle, and it just broke in a million pieces. So the farmer and his wife were happy that they had a brand new wedding gown with magical properties from the leprechauns, but the bottle was broken in a million pieces. That's kind of sad, isn't it? But when they came out the next day, there was a beautiful rose bush. That magic bottle had turned into a rose bush, and the lass used those roses as her wedding bouquet. And to the end of their days, the farmer and his daughter and her husband had the best of luck that you'd ever seen. And that's because every Saturday when he was going to market, the farmer would stop with a big basket of mushrooms. And he'd go, "Ah, to me leprechaun friends, I'm sitting this by your big old tree." And he'd set that by that magical tree. And they all had wonderful luck. So you watch for that tree. You never know when a leprechaun's going to pick out his own special tree. And they all lived happily ever after. And you can take that story, tell it better the next time. Okay? All right. Now, it's time. I'll tell you what. Do you know Pfeiffer Park over there on the east side of town? There's a big old oak tree there that looks like it's been split in half, and there's a big hole right through the middle of it. Now, we can't get up and look into that hole, but on a starry night, when it's evening and the fairy dust is sprinkling over the field, you look for some leprechauns there making music. Thanks for being with us today. Watch us Wednesdays at 5 o'clock on cable channel 2. Thank you much.